are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It's almost here. It's almost here. NBA Draft Night 2022, and your Spurs, as of now, have 3 first-round picks. Welcome back to Locked On Spurs on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. And as always, we thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever you get podcasts. And with the NBA Draft right around the corner, I want to talk to you quickly about the one live NBA Draft show that is not enough just for every single Locked On Spurs fan. Every show on the Locked On NBA Network is going live on Draft Night Thursday. So join me 15 minutes after our pick at Locked On Spurs on YouTube for the immediate reaction from your local expert. Subscribe now to Locked On Spurs so you know when I go live. Yeah. Woo, you can feel the electricity already. I mean, Spurs fans are already hyped. Multiple interviews have been done with a lot of players that have spoken about working out with the Spurs, from Torrey Eason to Shaden Sharp to Jalen Williams and many others. We'll be talking about those guys, some rumors, but specifically, should we understand that whoever they pick, if they keep all 3 picks or just 1 or 2, whatever, that player is not going to be an immediate impact player, or could they be? And yeah, our Spurs fans are ready for that and much, much more. To help me handle this heavy topic, I'm joined by Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. Rudy, it's almost here, man. Just one more day? That's tomorrow night, and it's showtime.
Yeah, one more day. The exciting time of the offseason is the NBA draft, and even more exciting for Spurs fans because you, as of right now, still have 3 first-round picks, one being number 9.
Oh, I mean, I haven't been excited for a draft in quite some time. I really haven't. This is the closest I've felt since maybe the Tim Duncan draft lottery when the Spurs won number 1. It's been that long since the Spurs have had a top 10 pick. They got close, was the last year with Primo with 11, but didn't get into the top 10. Here they are currently at 9. Before we get into our segments and some topics and some Q&A I got for you, your overall general thoughts about the Spurs tomorrow night.
Overall, if you're looking at number 9, I've been on day 1. You have to draft the best player available if you're sticking at 9. Right now, I think their big board is probably right at Jalen Duren, possibly Benedict Mathurin. Those are the 2 guys that I've circled as the top 2 picks, but for the Spurs at number 9. But I don't see Duren falling past Portland. Benedict Mathurin has been flying up draft boards. I've seen him as high as number 5 to the Pistons. So if that's the case, a possibility of trading down and grabbing another pick somewhere, and maybe a possible veteran player would be good. But as of right now, I think the consensus is Jalen Duren or Benedict Mathurin.
All right. Well, before we get to our segments, I just want to quickly ask you, though, a lot of the players that the Spurs have worked out, at least as of now, there's another round of interviews set for in the coming days, but have been leaning towards swing guys, swing guards, forwards. Is that shocking to you, or is that just simply just the makeup of the draft? It's heavy swing guys.
It's a really heavy draft when it comes to shooting guards, small forwards, wing players in general. I think where they're looking at is they have a need at every position ideally. I mean, even at point guard where, yes, you've got DeJounte Murray. Every position is at need for the Spurs. That's why I say best player available is number 1. Now, in the around 2025, you've got guys like Blake Wisely that's going to probably end up being there. Jake Lavria is going to be there. You've got some guys there that can come in and make instant impact. So to see 1 or possibly 2 of their draft picks going at swing position, it's probably going to happen.
Again, let's do some general thoughts before we get into specific segments here. There's been a report out of Bleacher Report that the Spurs apparently want to vault into that upper tier of the draft, like number 4, specifically Sacramento's number 4, targeting Keegan Murray. Would Rudy Campos make a deal to get number 4 to get a shot at Murray?
If you're looking at it, the Kings want to win now. They're in a win now matter. They don't want to use any more top draft picks to try to develop players. Right now, if the San Antonio Spurs are looking at a possible deal, I feel it will include a guy like Jakob Poeltl, obviously, because they have a major need at center position. The Sacramento Kings do. Plus, you're probably looking at possibly a Jay Richardson, probably Doug McDermott as well. You
Mhm.
might have to include the ninth pick. Now, if you're going to have to give up a core player being Keldon or Devin, you're probably going to want to hang on to that ninth pick. So I think the Kings would ideally, if they want a Keldon Johnson or a Devin Vassell, to include a Doug McDermott and a Jakob Poeltl, you may have to throw in a pick number 20 or 25 in there, and I think the Kings would do it at 4. But ideally, they're eyeing Jakob Poeltl, which a lot of teams actually are going into this draft, so
Yeah.
that's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is not the first time Pirtle's been involved in rumors. Last season was the hottest for him, where he
Mhm.
himself comes out and says, like, yeah, me and my agent, we knew that my name was on the table. So would not be surprised if Jakob Pirtle's not in Spurs colors next season. Talking with Rudy Campos right here on Locked On Spurs, getting you ready for the big night tomorrow night out in Brooklyn, New York City. He's with Sweep the League, and he'll tell you all about his show shortly in just a few minutes. Again, I spoke to a handful of players already. Majority of them have worked out or at least interviewed with the Spurs, from Shaden Sharp to Jalen Williams out of Santa Clara to Benedict Mathurin, and just recently Torrey Eason. Uh, Interesting though, and even Johnny Davis. Johnny Davis told me that he would love to go to San Antonio. That he feels like that's the team that he could fit in. Interesting though. A lot of this buzzword has been coming out. Resources. Um, that I've heard that from several places saying the Spurs have the resources to help me. Marjan Beauchamp was the one who really hammered that. This is kind of leaking into our first segment, but is that what the Spurs are now? Is that they're a team that just have resources to develop? Because it feels like at number 9, if they stay at number 9, Rudy, they're not going to get that franchise altering player.
You're right on that. And, to paint an overall picture for a lot of Spurs fans, this isn't a draft that's going to produce tier one Hall of Famers, tier one superstars, or anything like that. Now, eventually, some guys may become a superstar in the league. It's going to take a little while to develop, but you're not going to have that instant, immediate impact superstar that you've seen in past with like a John Morant or with a LeBron James, even at number one. You're not going to get that. But right now, what the Spurs do is I think you're going to get players that are going to come in and they're going to develop very quickly and they're going to make instant impacts. They're going to be those role players that you need to get back into the playoff picture and to get into title contention eventually down the line. So coming into this draft, I think with players being developed and saying, hey, the resources the Spurs actually do have the resources to develop these players and develop them very, very quickly. It's just the hope of wherever and whoever you're drafting at 9 doesn't get pushed off to the side and they allow him to develop into the player that he is expected to become.
Would you be surprised if whoever they pick at 9, again, we're playing with the idea that they're going to stick with 9.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just say they get Durant, or let's just say Mather, whoever. Would you be flipping tables if the next thing you hear is, okay, and he's off to Austin for about a month and a half?
I've been a very big advocate of sending them to Austin to develop, but it depends on who you draft at 9. If you're getting Durant, if you're getting Mathurin, those two guys need to be on the NBA roster from day one. Those two guys are instant impact players. Again, they're not franchise players. They could eventually be franchise players, but as of right now, they're not. But they are going to add a dimension to this Spurs squad that is needed right now. That's youth, that's athleticism, that Duran brings that, shot blocking ability. He brings the presence. He can actually score the basket. So, I mean, these are guys that need to be on the NBA roster day one, hands down. I will flip the table.
He is Rudy Campos with Sweep the League. When we get back, we're going to be talking about how crazy can the Spurs go, or perhaps in Rudy's mind, they should go crazy as far as it comes to wheeling and dealing to perhaps shorten this rebuild. Quickly, want to talk to you about betonline.net, your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports development and league reviews and news, including this year's NHL playoffs and Major League Baseball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcast news this season. And if you need some Spurs info, they have it there. They have the odds on if DeAndre Ayton is going to come to San Antonio, if Becky Hammon, the former Spurs assistant coach, is going to make her return to the NBA as a head coach. It's all there at betonline.net. Even the odds for the Spurs title hopes next season. Yes, if you're interested in that, I want to see how astronomical it is, go to BetOnline right now. BetOnline.net is the safest and easiest and fastest way to check in all of your sports, favorite sports, that is, events, including MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today. Use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. We're back with Rudy Campos right here on Locked On Spurs. He is with Sweep the League. Rudy, do you really want to know what the Spurs odds are to winning the title next year? It's not fun.
I was actually going to ask you, what is the odds if you have it?
The last I checked is I think it was like 240 to 1 or 250 to 1 odds.
That's an easy $20 bet. I would put $20 on that all day.
You would put $20 on that,
Yeah,
even though
the
odds really.
I would put. You know what? I'd be ballsy and go $50 on those odds.
What would the payout be for something like that? If you put 20 or 50, if you put 50, say you go highball.
Man. What is that?
What, times 5? Like times 5, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much. That 240 times or 250 times 5. Yeah, that's a nice scratch for $50 back. But
yeah.
Hopefully the Spurs can get a franchise-altering player, but as Rudy mentioned earlier, that is likely not going to happen. We're going to be talking about that and much more, but let's dive into the idea of just going nuts. Remember what Michael Keaton's Batman said to the Joker in the living room?
Yeah.
Because you want to get nuts, it will get nuts. How nuts should the Spurs go on draft night, draft day, and the day before, maybe today? Because they have so many assets. Would Rudy Campos just go crazy and say, you know what? If Rudy's a GM of the Spurs, he said, you know what? Enough of this play-in tourney stuff. Enough of this waiting, developing, sending to Austin thing. Let's get in a power player now. Do you think the Spurs should take that route and just go for broke and say, all right, all our picks are on the table, all our players are on the table. What you got, NBA teams?
It's so crazy, man, because Brian Wright basically at the trade deadline, he opened up the top 2 buttons and showed us his chest hair. And it showed, hey, I'm ready for this. I am the new Rico Suave in town. If you got a deal to make, let's make a deal. I think this offseason, and, just looking at the overall picture, this offseason has so much potential. You've got 3 first-round picks. You're going to have upwards of $30 to $40 million to spend in free agency. You've got a lot of young talent. You've got contracts that are absolutely perfect for other teams and players who can make instant impacts for title-contending teams. This is the absolute best picture you could have created for the San Antonio Spurs. If it's me, I am answering every single phone call, whether it's from, Jock Landale all the way to DeJounte Murray. I'm answering every call. I'm looking at every picture. I'm turning every stone, no matter who it is, no matter what they're offering. The worst I can do is say, no, I'm not interested. But you've got to take every phone call. You've got to see what's available. This team is right there. It's right there for coming to playoff contention. I'm not saying title, but just playoff contention. You're about a piece or 2 away from it. You've got to make a move. This is a very vital offseason for the Spurs.
You're talking about getting aggressive, whether it's bringing in a John Collins, bringing in, and there's rumblings about Bradley Beal. Do you think that's what the Spurs team is missing? That bona fide NBA All-Star? No knock on DeJounte. I'm not knocking him. He is an All-Star, but a bona fide All-Star, a player that is name recognition, give you buckets, just get this team over the hump.
Honestly, Jeff, it's great to put a superstar or a bona fide star on this organization, but I would rather have a guy like OG Anunoby or Pascal Siakam. These guys are not bona fide superstars, but they do all the little things to get your team up and over that next hump. Pascal Siakam on a Spurs team provides 2-way ball. It provides a scoring option. We saw what he did in the playoffs this year. Obviously, Toronto isn't, they're not saying we're going to keep him or anything like that. They are willing to move him for the right price. So getting a bona fide superstar is not necessarily in the cards. It's whatever's going to make your team go to that next level. A guy like Siakam is
Mm-hmm.
there. Anunoby is still there. Those kind of guys are the players that the Spurs need.
Every time I hear the word bona fide, I think of Blood In, Blood Out. Remember that character named Bonafide? I think of that character from there. But anyway, yeah. I mean, part of me wants the Spurs to go nuts, just go nuts, as Michael Keaton said as Batman, or Bruce Wayne. He was actually Bruce Wayne at the time. Um, and just go crazy. Let's do it now. You got options, and yes, that means a KJ or a Devin or a DeJounte. Not to say they're gonna sell them off for cheap, but I think a DeJounte or a Devin can get you back a reasonable haul. Do you think if you look at the Spurs roster right now, Rudy, can some of these pieces give the Spurs a reasonable haul? Or are you expecting a blockbuster haul?
Man, if you're talking about a guy like DeJounte Murray, honestly, let's look at all the players real quick. DeJounte Murray is tier one as where you expect to get a massive
Hmm.
haul and two premier stars. They don't have to be superstars, but two premier up and coming stars. Below that, you've got Keldon, you've got Devin, you've got players there that you expect to get a nice haul for. You don't need a superstar or anything like that. You just expect to get a nice haul. But if
Hmm.
you're looking for any type of deal, I would say you get the best deal possible. And it sucks. I go back to 83, 84, I believe, when the Spurs traded their franchise player, George Gervin, to the Bulls. It's a move you have to make sometimes. And I get it's a tough move. I'm not saying to trade DeJounte. DeJounte is the face of the franchise right now, and he will be for as long as he's here. But you've got to take calls on everybody no matter what it is. And if it benefits your team and it adds assets and future picks or something, and it makes
Hmm.
your team better in the long run, you have to do it. It's a business. The NBA is a business first, and that's what people have to realize.
It is a business first, and putting a solid product out there on the court is going to bring in the fans, going to bring in the ticket sales, is going to bring in merch sales. They get that. So, but the Spurs got to put together a team. Not to say the team as currently constructed is horrible. It's not.
Oh,
It's a
no.
decent team. It's
Yeah,
decent. It's not. It's not horrible. It's not like you're the bottom of the barrel. But the Spurs have, I guess, developed players or developing players that have some worth. You got a Keldon Johnson, Team USA experience, gold medal, and of course, his second half of the season was just incredible. Obviously, we know what DeJounte does, but yeah, it's interesting because the Spurs they haven't been in this situation. And I was talking to friends of the show, Joe Roynagel and Rob Thompson over there at the San Antonio Sports Star, and I joined them on the Blitz one evening, and I was talking to them. I was saying, and maybe you can help me out here, Rudy, too. It's like I can't remember a Spurs team this heavily active and making moves like this in like forever. And they brought up, well, remember Trader Bob Bass, but Bob
yep,
Bass never made these kind of moves. He just made moves to make moves. That was it. That was it. There was no rhyme or reason. But
yeah.
do you? But based on what you saw with Brian Wright this past season, do you expect him to make some pretty big moves, like trading away a fan favorite? He did it once already with Derek White. Can you see him doing it again in either tomorrow night or the day after? Because I think 2 weeks later, after tomorrow night, it's NBA free agency period.
Absolutely. You've got a lot of other factors that come into the San Antonio Spurs. You've got new investors. You've got a new market coming in with Austin, those two games out there. Plus, you're coming up to the end of Pop's coaching career. So a lot of these factor in because now you're trying to take the Spurs into that next tier of NBA teams where, like I said, you're involving the Austin market. You're trying to gain fans. You want to put a fantastic product out there. You want to get a product out there that fans and everybody, and even businesses, are excited to be a part of. So I think Brian Wright is going to make a splash here. And the last time you said with Bob Bass, the last time I can remember is when the Spurs were active and they traded Alvin Robertson for Terry Cummings. That's how far back it
Hmm.
goes when it
Yeah.
comes to a big deal for the San Antonio Spurs trading away one of their star players and getting a good star player in return because Terry was really good here in San Antonio for years.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Brian Wright is actually going to make an impact. Whether he sticks with all 3 draft picks, I think they're going to be all draft picks that are going to benefit the San Antonio Spurs. But he's also going to keep his eye on the Phoenix situation. I think the DeAndre Ayton situation is going to play key because the last word we've heard was Phoenix is trying to get at 4 or a little bit in that top 5, top 6 range. So I think if the Spurs don't have a player there at 9 that they're interested in, I feel they'll be on the phone with Phoenix talking about an Aiden type move. Hey, who can we draft for you at this position to where we can move
But
come July as well?
okay, hang on that in thought. I want to bring something to you, and then we'll put a wrap on this episode of Locked On Spurs in just a
Okay.
few minutes. But yeah, I'm starting to. I'll just give you a little clue. I'm starting to move away from the Aiton thing, and I'll tell you in a bit, just a few seconds. We're with Rudy Campos with Sweep the League, and we're talking about the Spurs and the NBA Draft 2022. It's just tomorrow night out in Brooklyn. Now, before we continue our chat, I want to talk to you about Built Bar. Built Bar, they got a new flavor, mud pie. You know, our friends over at Built are always coming out with amazing new flavors, right? They're always doing it. And then this time they did it again with the mud pie flavor. They outdid themselves. I just recently had myself a few bars the other day. Loved them. Loved them, loved them, loved them. It's a new mud pie flavor. You get it both in the mud pie bar and a mud pie puff. Now, if you're a chocolate fan, you're gonna love this. It's a rich whipped cream chocolate mousse smothered in 100% real chocolate, topped with cookies and cream crumble. Delicious. Let me just say, I went through the box that I got in and almost in one sitting. I had to like stop, say, you know what, I better save these because I'm gonna run out if I keep on eating them. Well, you got to try it. The mud pie is really, really good. You got to hurry up because the mud pie bar and mud pie puff are only available for a limited time. Visit built.com to taste the deliciousness for yourself. And luckily, we saved the best for the last. It's actually good for you too. No, really. All Built products are low calories, high protein, low sugar. Mud pie is packed with just 16 grams of protein and only 150 calories and only 8 grams of sugar. It's like your mom baked the most delicious, creamy chocolate mud pie, wrapped it up for you and just for you. Mud pie bars and puffs are available right now at built.com. They're going fast because they are delicious. And as like I mentioned, always covered in 100% real chocolate. Healthy and tasty for you. Chocolate mousse, whipped cream, cookies and cream crumble. Stop drooling. Go to built.com right now. Get yourself mud pie bars and puffs right now. You're not going to regret it. Go to built.com. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com. We're back with Rudy Campos. He is with Sweep the League. And I just want to get a quick update from you, Rudy. How is your stem cell research going? Is it going pretty well? Almost finding a cure? Are you finding the answer?
I found the answer. I think I'm hoping that the last test come back very, very good. And if they do, I am going to be a quadrillionaire for sure.
Look at that. Rudy Campos is a man of many talents. Knows his NBA big boards ahead of the draft and is on it. He's looking at that stem cell research. All kidding aside, he is with us talking about tomorrow night, the big night out in Barclays Arena in New York City, Spurs NBA Draft 2022. Perhaps we should wrap this up by asking you a big question here, and I think this goes towards fans, and you kind of alluded it to already.
Sure.
I get it. Spurs fans are hyped, but we'll talk about it in a few seconds. I get that, but should they pump the brakes? I think Spurs fans are expecting some player that's going to come in and make that immediate impact. But we have to remember these are not the 4-year pros, the 3-year pros in years past. These are one and dones mainly. These are 19, 18, 20-year-old kids that are coming out. Should Spurs fans pump the brakes and realize this is just going to perhaps be a project player light?
I would say yes. This is 100% pump the brakes. You got to take right now NBA drafts lately. You've got to take it as an MLB draft. You're drafting prospects, like you said, 18-year-old, 19-year-old guys. It's going to take time for these guys to develop. You're not going to get a super impact player. You are definitely going to get a guy that's going to help you, but it's going to be an MLB prospect type person. You've got to wait. You've got to let them develop. They're going to make their mistakes. They're going to have issues. But, yes, pump the brakes. There's really no legit, even Paolo Banchero, there's really no legit superstar day one. He's going to be a Hall of Fame player in this draft or any drafts coming up, to be honest with you. So development-wise, yes, you're going to get development players. Be patient. Be excited, but be patient at the same time.
Going back to Aiden, though, I'm kind of cold on getting Aiden because doesn't he do what Jakob already does? I mean, I don't see any difference.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the occasional midi, but I mean, it's not like he's knocking down threes like Joker. It's not like he's hitting down a mid-range shot like DeMar DeRozan. I mean, that's the stretch big that the Spurs need, whether it be at the 5 or the 4. But do you really want to spend that much money when you already have Jakob? Or do you see something I'm not seeing with Aiden, Rudy?
Personally, GM Rudy Campos says I don't overpay for Ayton. That's just my thing. You do need a stretch big, but what Ayton gives you more is, yes, you get Jakob's defensive ability. Ayton can be a defensive guru as well. But what you get is you get that inside presence that's gonna free up shots for Keldon, for Devin, for if Doug McDermott is still here, you're gonna free up those shots for them because you have an inside presence. Right now, defenses are not, double teaming Jakob Poeltl. They're not even guarding him on the perimeter. But a guy like DeAndre Ayton, you're opening up that window to where they're going to have to respect him a lot more than they respect Jakob. So I think what it does is it frees those guys up to have more open looks. It's not the Tim Duncan days where you're going to get Bruce Bowen on the corner for open threes 99% of the time. But you're going to get an inside presence that the Spurs need. You're going to get more versatility, more athleticism than the Spurs have at that position right now. But you don't want to overpay. Don't overpay for him.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. I don't want to overpay for Aiden. I don't think he's max worthy. I don't think he's that. I think he's worthy of a good payday, but not max money. And the Spurs
There's no player with max money this summer. Period.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't see that in him. But hey, do you want to take a quick fan question?
Sure.
Okay, this is from Brian Watcher. He asks, do you think the Spurs will trade up in this year's draft?
My instinct says yes, but where I feel that they go, and it's not a bulky move, it's not huge, I think they just swap picks with New Orleans, the Pelicans. New Orleans doesn't really need a top pick right now. They're kind of set at every position. They don't really have a desperate need. So I think what you may see is if the Spurs feel that they can get a player at one pick higher that they desperately want, they may just pick swap right there. Outside of that, the whole talk from the Kings, I really feel the Kings are going to go towards Indiana right now. Indiana makes so much more sense to give them the better players than Brogdon and Miles Turner. So I think if you see the Spurs trade up, it's probably going to be one pickup.
The Pelicans could do themselves a good service by hiring you, Rudy Campos, to keep Zion in shape. And seriously,
I can do that.
Yeah, you definitely could do that. Man, I know you never were sold on Zion, but if he does come back next season and he does lose the weight, because man, he got big. Do you think the Pelicans are going to be a threat?
If you can get Zion in, and this is an ideal weight, I mean, if you can get him in 100 to 150 pounds thinner and more bulkier, yes, the Pelicans would definitely be a team to contend with. But from day one, man, I tell everybody Zion's weight is going to be an issue. It's been an issue. His knees and his jumping ability, his explosiveness is killer to that body.
And I didn't mean to get sidetracked right now with some Pelicans talk, but circling back to the Spurs here, going back to that Murray sack number 4 pick, Spurs interested in Keegan Murray, that is. Is Keegan Murray worthy of a trade like that? I mean, if these reports are coming out, as they say, if there's smoke, there's fire. It looks like the Spurs really covet Murray. Is he going to be that good of a player in the league?
On Rudy Campos' big board, I have Keegan Murray actually at number 1 as my big man, and I'm going to tell you why. Very high basketball IQ, very careful. He picks his shots out. He's very picky. When I say very picky, I mean it in a very good way. He's very crafty. He's very creative. He does have some spurts where he does struggle a little bit with his shot. He can't really score it sometimes. But when I look at the overall big man, Jabari Smith is obviously number one for everybody. But I still feel that Jabari Smith has a little bit of flaws that people aren't seeing. With Keegan Murray, you've got an inside, you've got an outside presence, but you got a guy who's very crafty. And when I say this, I'm not saying he is, but we did have a crafty player in one Tim Duncan who was very crafty around the basket. Keegan Murray has those little bit of steps down below and the post that are similar. He's just very crafty with the basketball. I love that word. I'm using it a lot because that's the way he is. I have Keegan Murray actually high, very high on my big board when it comes to big men as far as NBA ready guys now.
He is Rudy Campos with Sweep the League. Rudy, tell us all about Sweep the League.
Well, Sweep the League, we release episodes every Wednesday night, early Thursday morning. We're just all in the draft talk right now, and I'm actually going back and forth with Derek Gervin, who's actually on the show, and we've been having conversations every single day in regards to the draft. So I'll see if I can get him to drop some lines to Jeff as well.
Perfect. Make sure to follow Rudy on Twitter at Sweep the League. Subscribe to Locked On Spurs wherever you get your favorite podcast, Google Play, Stitcher, iTunes, as mentioned earlier, YouTube. Hey, the first picks of the Ultimate NBA Mock Draft have been made. Now, search for it right now. The Ultimate NBA Mock Draft. You get over 50 insiders, the Odyssey Sports experts, the draft experts of Locked On NBA Big Board. The 5-episode Ultimate NBA Mock Draft is underway. Make Ultimate NBA Mock Draft your second listen today. Obviously, your first will be Locked On Spurs. Rudy, before I let you go, I want you to grade me now. I made my Locked On Spurs mock NBA draft picks. At number 9, I drafted Jalen Duren. I traded Jakob and the number 20 pick to Locked On Hornets. Locked On Hornets gave me number 15 and Kelly Oubre. With 15, I drafted Nikola Jovic, and nobody wanted 25. I couldn't trade 25, so I kept 25, and I selected Jaden Hardy out of the G League Ignite. How did I do?
Adding Oubre was big. Moving Jakob at 15 was pretty good. I like that move. I'm gonna give you an average grade of, I'm gonna say a B- on that. I'm going to say C+, B- there. I really liked it. Jaden Hardy, I love that pick very late. That's a very, very good pick. The Jovic pick is kind of a project pick. I had him right around the 20, where I think you might have been able to get him at 20. But moving up, because he is a potential superstar. I mean, not superstar, but he is a potential star. He has made a name for himself overseas. So definitely two big guys in Jovic and Duren with the first two picks. I'm happy with that. I would be satisfied.
And you get Oubre too. So you get Oubre.
So you basically filled every need at that big position.
Yeah, exactly. That was my goal, just to fill every need at the big spot. And if you put Hardy in the G League for a season and a half, so be it. Because Spurs have a bunch of guards anyway. So
he's been there before, so he's good.
He's been there before. Yeah, I'd probably tear it up. He is Rudy Campos of Sweep the League, as mentioned. Make sure to follow him on Twitter at Sweep the League, and give him your well wishes. He's hard at work with the stem cell research. So, he's on the case, everybody. He's covering the draft for you and doing some science for you. But for Rudy Campos, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.